And we'll have more on Simon's movie Hot Fuzz later. But first, a true story about an untrue story is in theaters now, starring Richard Gere. For our signature segment, For Real, Dailies' Heather Cabot is here with more on The Hoax.
That's right, Mike. In 1972, a little-known writer approached McGraw-Hill Publishing with a deal it couldn't refuse: the authorized biography of billionaire Howard R. Hughes. The documents the writer had to support his book were hailed as authentic, but they, like his story, were fake. Forgeries good enough to fool experts? Is that for real?
I'm working on the most important book of the 20th century. Richard
Gere stars in the story of one of the greatest frauds anyone ever got away with. Almost.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Clifford Irving.
Something starts to go sour with him and slightly crazy, and he comes up with this idea to write the fake autobiography of Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes, the billionaire?
Irving, a fiction writer, claimed to have met the billionaire recluse.
Howard Hughes hasn't spoken to the press in 15 years.
New York publishers jumped at the proposed biography, throwing him and a partner a $765,000 advance.
The more outrageous I sound, the more convincing I am.
If the guy were as brilliant a writer as he was a charlatan, he would have been, maybe even more successful.
Irving gave his publisher letters allegedly written by Hughes as proof Hughes was in on the deal. Experts at the time said the letters were for real.
Do you understand the power this gives us?
But Hughes came out of seclusion to say he never met Clifford Irving, and that was a deal breaker.
McGraw-Hill is not publishing your book. Book gone. The bomb has dropped.
So were Irving's letters actually written by Hughes? We asked a handwriting expert who says definitely not.
When I looked at this signature that was purported to have been written during this time period, I knew immediately that's not possible.
She believes the experts who fell for the hoax failed to properly examine the context of the letters.
You have to know the time and circumstance of that signature. That is numero uno.
Look at these samples from Ronald Reagan. His signature changed after the physical and mental trauma of his 1981 shooting.
Presumably this is going to make news.
Hughes's would have changed too, but the letters Irving produced were too neat to have been written by a physically ill and mentally disturbed Howard Hughes.
In this case, it was allegedly when he was in his mid to late 60s. He was at that point of his life extremely reclusive, and his behavior was considered strange and aberrant. You must compare this question signature only to signatures written in the exact same time period.
Those Howard Hughes letters Irving cooked up.
He's got everything here, the syntax, his speech patterns, everything. Take a picture.
Almost good enough to pull off the hoax, but definitely not for real. And once he was exposed, Irving was convicted of fraud and served 14 months in prison. His book, now a fictional account, has been published on his website and is available in a private edition if you're interested.
Yeah, well, I'm sure. Nothing real in it, which is kind of a nice thing. All right, thanks very much, Heather. Real 3 is next.